I'm Andrea Lorenz from the East Grand Forks Campbell Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make Crystal Yetis. So if you picked up a kit from the library, you will have all of the supplies you need, except for maybe a few, but let's go through the whole supply list. You should have one Yeti cut out of tagboard, a Yeti stand, a glue dot, a jar with a half cup of borax, and this is a pint-sized jar. You could use a larger one, but you might have to adjust the amount of borax. You don't necessarily need a separate container and a spoon to stir up your solution, but I find it to be helpful, and some very hot water. So to start with, let's put our Yeti together. So we're going to take the stand and we're going to bend it along the score lines so it makes a shape like this. And then we're going to slot our Yeti into it. So line up the lines and push it together so your Yeti has a little stand. We're going to attach our Yeti to the lid of this jar. And we are going to put our solution inevitably in the jar and put our Yeti in here to grow its crystals. So if you open up your jar lid, take your Yeti, and we're going to put a glue dot on the very bottom of the Yeti. So right here on the bottom of the stand, we're going to put our glue dot. If you have more than one glue dot, you could put another one on there if you have some at home. So I have an extra one, so I'm going to put 2. And then I'm going to try and stick him as close to the middle of the lid of the jar as I can. So I'm going to push, push, push. I want him to stay on my lid. All right, so my Yeti is ready to go. Now we need to mix up our solution. So we're using borax to create crystals. So borax is a naturally occurring material that is found in California and Nevada, and it is mined. Its chemical formula is sodium borate, and to create our crystals, we're going to create a supersaturated or oversaturated solution. So what that means is we're going to add more borax than what water can normally hold. So we're going to dissolve the borax in our water, in our very hot water that we have, and as the solution cools down, the extra borax is going to look for a place to make crystals. It's going to look for a place to settle down. So that is how our crystals are going to get made. So I'm going to put my borax into my container. And I'm going to, this is some water in a kettle that I have just boiled, and I'm going to measure the amount of water that I need by pouring it into my jar. You could do this ahead of time and just have the right amount of hot water. I think it's about 2 cups. You want to fill it pretty full. And you may want to have a grown-up help you with this step because the jar will be very, very hot. All right. Ooh, ouch. All right, so we're going to mix up our solution. You're going to make sure that you have any clumps that are in there. You want to break those up so they will all dissolve. And our solution should be pretty clear by the time that it's ready to pour. So, kind of has an interesting smell. So the borax that we are using is this that you could find in the grocery store, 20 mule team borax. Borax was first discovered in Tibet in the 8th century, and but it didn't really rise to popularity until the late 19th century when Francis Mason founded this company, 20 mule team borax. And he advertised this as a multi-purpose household cleaner. And it was called 20 mule team borax because that is how they got the borax out of the California desert. They had to use a 20 mule team to get the mined borax out. So, interesting fact. Okay, I think our solution is ready. It looks like everything has dissolved, so I'm going to set my spoon aside. And I'm going to pour my solution into my jar. And you want to fill your jar up pretty close to the top, not all the way. Oh wait, before we do that, we need to prep our Yeti. So we're going to take our Yeti and we're going to dip him into the solution, probably about up to his ankles. So you just dip him very carefully and then pull him right back out, give him a little shake, and we're going to let him dry. And so what that is going to do is that's going to create a very thin layer of borax solution on top of the Yeti. So like I said earlier, when our solution cools down, the borax is going to start to form crystals. That's going to be everything that didn't properly dissolve in the water. And so when we do that, when we create this thin borax layer, what it does is it creates a nucleation site for our crystals. So as our crystals start to form, they look for a good place to form. And you might see that they'll form all over inside of your jar. I had that happen before. But they're going to look for a spot first that is friendly to them. And a spot that already has a little borax is going to work a lot better than a spot that doesn't. So we're just kind of prepping our Yeti. We're going to give him another second here to dry off. Give him a little shake, shake, shake. And once it looks like he's pretty dry, we're going to pour our solution into our jar. Okay. So I filled it up pretty full. You can see the water is about here on the top. And I'm just very carefully going to turn my Yeti over and stick him inside and screw the lid on. Once he's inside, you want to set him aside somewhere where he isn't going to get bumped or jostled, and let him sit for about 12 hours. So if you do this in the evening, you can just let it sit overnight. And when you're done, you should have a Crystal Yeti. So I want to show you two Yetis that I have made. And they are kind of fragile. You want to be careful when you take them out of the jar because they are just paper. They might fall apart. So here is, if you can see it, here's my first Yeti. So I created both of these Yetis. This one is a little bit heavier and the crystals are a little bit bigger than this one. So this one sat a little bit longer, and this one also, I use hotter water to make the solution for this Yeti than I did for this Yeti. And I'll give you a close-up view of these as well.
So here you can see the two different Yetis. This one, it has a bigger crystal structure, as you can see, and it has more crystals. And this one has smaller crystals, but they are still there. So those are both of the Yetis. I'm gonna flip them over just so you can see the other side. They look pretty similar. And when you have your Yeti all complete, you can give him a very light rinse off and just let him dry, and he should stay crystallized.
So there you have it. You can do some more borax experiments if you like. Borax is used as a cleaner, but it's also used as a cross-linking agent in slime. You may have made slime before using a borax solution. You can also try to make more crystals. You could put food coloring inside of your solution to make colored crystals, or you could use a pipe cleaner instead of a Yeti, and the hairs of the pipe cleaner will be what the crystals form on top of. You could also, instead of having a Yeti, you could make something else and you could color on it and see what it looks like when the crystals form on top of the color. So there's lots of things that you can do with this borax solution, and it's a fun experiment to do. So when you are all done, when you pulled your Yeti out and you're done with your solution, you can pour it down the drain. Maybe follow it up with a little bit of hot water. It's okay to go down the kitchen sink. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your experiments.